Eddard, of the House Stark, Lord of Winterfell and Warden of the North, sentence you to die.
This is Eddard Stark, the man the entire Westeros calls the most honorable lord in the Seven Kingdoms.
Yes, it is.
He stands holding his massive Valyrian steel sword named Ice, ready to dispense justice. This is one of the best character introductions in the history of Game of Thrones. In just a few minutes, we will see both his enormous strengths and his fatal flaws. Before him trembles a deserter of the Night's Watch. The man is not afraid of death. He simply wants everyone to know that the apocalypse is coming. In a moment, Stark will raise his sword, and with one precise strike, he will cut off his head, leaving unanswered the serious questions. Why, for Ned Stark, did the duty to uphold the law turn out to be more important than the real apocalypse that had already begun? Today we are breaking down the most important scene for understanding Ned's character. Why a sincere belief in the law and a lack of flexibility can sometimes be more dangerous than any betrayal. Of course, I'm going to talk about all of this in detail, but first we need some context. The White Walkers, who for centuries had been nothing but an old legend, turned out to be real. They silently slaughtered a ranging party of the Night's Watch, but deliberately left one man alive, as a message. This man, broken by horror and in shock, deserts and flees from beyond the wall. He is caught, and for a deserter of the Night's Watch, there is only one punishment: death.
Walkers. White Walkers. White Walkers. I saw them.
For Ned, this is the perfect moment to demonstrate the absolute power of the law. He is not simply executing a deserter, he is executing a symbol, a man who has seen something that cannot exist. In doing so, Ned manipulates the perception of reality for everyone around him. The truth about the White Walkers is turned into the ravings of a madman, while the law remains the only stable foundation. The law is real, and everyone will personally witness the consequences of breaking it. To emphasize his point, he makes the punishment public. He uses the effect of social proof so that everyone can see for themselves that the deserter is insane.
White Walkers. White Walkers. I saw them.
His disheveled appearance, trembling, and repetitive words all point to it. Therefore, his warnings about the White Walkers are nothing more than the delusions of a madman. He is simply a deserter who has lost his mind. A sad sight, but one that does not make the punishment any softer. This allows Ned to carry out the execution without any internal conflict, because what stands before him is simply a lawbreaker. Here we see Machiavellian coldness on display. Ned shows no sympathy for Will's trauma. He sees only the violation of the law and uses the moment to reinforce the hierarchy. The law above all, even above the horror that has broken a man. Though it's worth noting that he truly derives no pleasure from this punishment. For him, it is a harsh duty.
I know I broke my oath. And I know I'm a deserter. I should have gone back to the wall and warned them, but I saw what I saw.
This moment takes the entire scene to a completely different level of horror. The deserter is not mad, he was not lying, and he was not exaggerating. He had seen the White Walkers. He understood the scale of the threat and wanted people to know.
I saw the White Walkers. People need to know.
His words were not an attempt to save himself. They were the final honest confession of a witness. Ned, however, genuinely, and without any cynicism, perceived all of this as pure delusion. For him, Will was the classic example of a broken man, a deserter who had lost his mind from fear. Ned is not cynically ignoring the truth. He simply cannot see it. His mind automatically rejects any information that destroys his worldview: law, order, duty, the wall. The truth about the White Walkers simply does not exist in that picture, so it is instantly labeled as madness. It is precisely this sincere belief that makes Ned especially dangerous. He is not being hypocritical. He does not enjoy power. He honestly performs the ritual of execution, truly believing that he is punishing a mad deserter. His nod is not cold calculation. It is genuine, almost fatherly sympathy for the poor boy, to whom he promises to deliver his final words to his family.
If you get word to my family, tell them I'm no coward. Tell them I'm sorry.
In that moment, Ned feels completely righteous. And here the darkest psychological mechanism kicks in. Sincere belief in one's own rightness allows a person to commit the most terrible acts without any pangs of conscience. Ned is not consciously sacrificing the truth. He is simply incapable of accepting it. His principles, his fear of chaos, and his love for the law create the perfect trap for the mind. Any information that does not fit into the system is automatically discarded. The deserter's absolute honesty only strengthens this effect. The more openly he speaks the truth, the more he appears insane in the eyes of a man who lives in a completely different reality. It is a paradox. Honesty spoken aloud becomes proof of madness. That is why, when Ned draws his sword, he does it not out of cruelty, but out of the deep conviction that he is restoring order. Even though Ned was wrong, the almost religious devotion with which he carries out the law deserves respect. He could have ordered any of his subjects to do it. With one gesture, one word, he is the Lord, he is the authority. No one would dare object, but he does it himself. Why? Because this is a ritual. For Ned, the ritual is not a mere formality. It is a psychological weapon he uses every day to banish the demon of chaos. Ned knows the true price of lawlessness. He himself took part in seizing power alongside Robert Baratheon. He saw how breaking the law just once triggers a domino effect. The hierarchy of power collapses, subjects stop believing in the rules, and war of all against all begins.
Chaos. A gaping pit waiting to swallow us all.
In that war, the winner is not the just man, but the most cunning, the most treacherous, the most ruthless.
Chaos is a ladder.
Thousands of innocents die not from swords, but from the absence of order. Ned understands. If he delegates the execution even once, his people will see weakness, and then the chain reaction will start. Today, someone fails to obey an order. Tomorrow, someone betrays. The day after that, his own children will pay the price. That is why, for Ned, enforcing the law is strategic coldness.
In the name of Robert of the House Baratheon, the first of his name,
Don't look away.
King of the Andals and the first...
Father will know if you do.
It is precisely here that the strategy the Starks use for survival in a world where weakness is not merely shame but a death sentence is revealed. Ned reads the sentence, fully focused on upholding the law, but this does not make him blind. On the contrary, the genius of his power lies exactly in this focus. He does not need to see everything personally. This is the classic panopticon effect. Power is present even when the ruler's eyes are turned away. The subjects know that the Lord will find out anyway, and it is this knowledge that keeps everyone in constant tension. Jon is not simply warning his brother, he is forcing the boy to understand. In this world, looking away is not just fear. It is a signal of weakness that instantly becomes public knowledge. In Westeros, news spreads extremely fast. One moment of doubt, one averted gaze, and tomorrow the entire North and then the whole kingdom will know the young Stark is a weak person. Easy prey. The most interesting part is why Jon warns his brother. He could have stayed silent, he could have let Bran look away and then quietly, gradually, day by day, undermine his reputation. The thousand cuts tactic, small, invisible jabs that eventually destroy the brother from within, making him vulnerable to outside enemies. This is the classic Machiavellian move within a family. When there is competition for the father's attention, one's weakness automatically raises the other. But Jon chooses differently. He actively protects Bran. Why? Because the Starks understand that family solidarity is their strongest weapon. They do not compete with each other for scraps of power. They build the clan as a single mechanism. Jon, even as a bastard, invests in his younger brother because he knows a strong Bran means a stronger clan. This is not sentimentality, it is calculated reciprocity. Today I protect you, tomorrow you will watch my back. In a world where allies disappear faster than morning mist, such internal loyalty is the only reliable insurance. And that is exactly why the Starks last so long, and this truly works. Proof of which is Ned Stark, who occupies a very high position in society.
I, Eddard, of the House Stark, Lord of Winterfell and Warden of the North, sentence you to die.
The strike is swift and as painless as possible. Ned does not drag it out, he takes no pleasure in it, and he does not turn it into a spectacle. It is purely the execution of duty. Even though the duty has been fulfilled, the seed of doubt still takes root. Because if the deserter was right, then Ned Stark, despite being flawless from the point of view of the law, made a fatal mistake. Formally, no one could accuse him of any violation. For a deserter of the Night's Watch, there is only one punishment: death. But from the perspective of a true ruler, when even the slightest hint of an existential threat appears, ignoring it is no longer honesty, it is blindness. And there were more than enough hints. The dead direwolf, the stag torn apart with unbelievable savagery, a direwolf which never lives in these parts, suddenly fleeing here as if escaping something far more terrifying than itself. The deserter did not look like a coward. On the contrary, his words and behavior spoke of genuine horror, not mere panic. All of it formed a clear picture. The Rangers had indeed been killed by White Walkers, and the beast had been fleeing from them. This was no longer just the word of one man. It was a whole complex of evidence that should have made him think.
He was talking madness. Said the Walker slaughtered his friends.
Relatives with us still missing.
Ned assessed the situation only on the surface. He saw only the violation of the law, not the context. He knew the rules and followed them precisely, knowing exactly what would happen if the law was ignored. But life sometimes throws circumstances in which mechanical adherence to the law becomes not just pointless, but dangerous. In the face of a threat that could destroy all living things, any living soul becomes an ally. All personal, political, and family interests must yield to one thing: survival. Under such conditions, an execution is no longer justice. It is working for the enemy. Ned's problem was not a lack of honesty, but a lack of mental flexibility. He fell victim to a classic psychological trap: rigidity. When a person becomes fixated on one correct rule and stops seeing the changing reality. The law became an automatic trigger for him. Deserter equals death, and everything else was simply cut off. It is similar to how the brain sometimes switches to autopilot in a stressful situation, quickly, efficiently, but without adaptation. Ned failed to pause and properly evaluate the anomaly, and it is anomalies that signal a new threat. From the perspective of the psychology of power, this is also the absence of second-order strategic thinking. He saw only the first level. If I don't execute him, I will undermine the authority of the law. But he did not consider the second and third levels. And what if the execution causes us to miss the real danger that will destroy everything, including the law and myself? A true ruler in a moment of crisis must be able to temporarily freeze formal rules without losing the essence of his role, the protection of his people. It seems to me that it is here that Ned revealed a deep internal contradiction. He was an ideal warrior and a man of honor. But when it came to ruling, he lacked cold, rational analysis. He did not try to read the situation more deeply. Neither the deserter's behavior, nor the tracks at the scene, nor the possible motives. Instead, he was guided by the stereotype, the law is the law. And it was precisely this rigidity, not anyone's betrayal, that became the cause of his downfall. The right decision would have been to announce the execution publicly, but to postpone carrying it out. The authority of the law would have remained unshaken, while Ned would have gained time and the opportunity to quietly, without unnecessary attention, verify the deserter's words and gather additional evidence. If he was right, the law of peacetime simply stops working. This would no longer be a deserter, but a soldier in a war for the survival of the human race. If he had gone mad and invented everything, then the sentence could be carried out. Such a decision would not have undermined trust in the authorities, and at the same time would not have allowed the real threat to be missed. Ned Stark became the first high-ranking person to receive enough evidence that the White Walkers were not a fairy tale.
The ones who flee say they've seen the White Walkers. Ned Stark chopped his head off.
He could have stopped the Game of Thrones right at the very beginning, turning it into a common struggle for survival. Instead, he chose rigidity. And it was this rigidity that became his fatal weakness. Because in the real world, where rules collide with new reality, the true wisdom of a ruler lies not in blindly following the law, but in knowing when it needs to be adapted without losing the essence of power, the protection of his people. In Ned Stark's defense, it can be said that hardly anyone in all of Westeros could have correctly solved such a complex puzzle. But the cruel world of Westeros has no mercy. As a ruler, Ned made a mistake. He did not simply execute a deserter, he executed a chance. And this mistake, in my opinion, is one of the strongest lessons of the series. Honesty without flexibility in a moment of crisis is not valor, but a dangerous illusion. So if you made it this far, thank you so much, I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed the video, do me a favor, drop a comment, hit like, and subscribe. It genuinely helps the channel grow. See you next time.